skin. This collection of birds was carved by Thomas Hansen, a local artist. He was confined to a wheelchair during his youth because of polio. He began carving birds early and continued all his life. The next area we will explore is the museum's Pioneer Room. This room is set up with things you would expect to find in a pioneer home around the late 1800s and early 1900s.
You will notice that in many of the photographs in the museum, the people were rarely smiling. There are several reasons for this. The early cameras needed to expose the film to light for a longer period of time. This meant that people had to hold their poses longer, and a smile is harder to hold. People also had their picture taken less often, so it was usually a formal pose. This hair wreath was very popular during the 1860s to 1880s. The women would save their hair that fell out when they were brushing, put it in a jar or container on their dresser, and then use it to make these decorative pictures. Women often used hair from family members, children, and grandchildren, but sometimes they would trade hair with their friends to get different colors. This marriage license is typical of marriage licenses 75 to 100 years ago. They were more decorative and meant to be displayed in the home. Baptismal and confirmation certificates were also decorated like this. The museum has two butter churns, both an older wooden model and a newer glass one. In the glass churn, you turn the crank to make the paddle spin around and to churn the butter from cream. In this wood churn, you move the wood handle up and down to make the paddles go up and down. The cream had to be the right temperature, and you had to churn the right amount of time to get butter. Wool carders were used to comb out the fibers, separate them, line them up parallel to each other, and make it easier for spinning. It took a long time to separate out all the fibers and to line them up. A spinning wheel like this one was used to spin the carded wool into yarn so it could be used to knit, crochet, or weave garments and other textile items. These are two examples of the spun wool, the heavier yarn and the finer thread. A hoop like this one was worn under the fuller skirts to give them shape. It is made of covered wire and twill tape and hung from the waist. This is a hoop similar to those used in the late 1800s. Hoops from the Civil War years, 1860s, were about 4 to 5 feet in diameter. This dress is typical of the late 19th century and has Lego mutton sleeves. Most dresses from that time were actually a separate bodice and matching skirt. The women would have worn a hoop or bustle under their skirt along with several petticoats to add fullness. This dress would have been worn for a dressier occasion, not to work in the house. The buffalo coat is very heavy and very warm. The collar and cuffs are made of beaver, but the main body is buffalo. It was found in Lee's Market on Main Street, Valley City.
Now come with me into the post office and